Today's body of Messiah in America, old, shrinking, and dying, reflects the failure of generations of parents and ministries to instill not just biblical values, not just long-established traditions and philosophies and schools of thought, but biblical understanding, biblical answers, and the critical thinking tools and skills necessary to find and test those biblical answers for themselves, rather than over-rely on denominational doctrines, professional clergy, or podcast preachers to spoon-feed it to them. It reflects a weakness that didn't protect children from powerful, worldly influences, that increasingly didn't know what their children were being taught and exposed to in school, that weren't selective about who they allowed their kids to be friends with, who weren't sufficiently involved in their children's personal life and spiritual growth, who didn't teach their children to love the Scriptures and rely on them like food, water, and air, and who eventually gave them unfettered access to the internet with that stupid glass rectangle that we keep in our pockets. It's a reflection on generations of Americans who increasingly enjoyed the luxuries and comforts of a prosperous nation and either never knew or never taught about the hardship of following Messiah. It's a reflection on generations who let their children become soft in their spirit, unprepared, and easily molded by outside voices that question, did God really say? To which their empty minds and devoid spirits had no reply and no resistance. In a word, the body of Messiah in America has generationally failed the one job that Yeshua gave us, to make disciples. Generation after generation has become less equipped with and less committed to the truth of God's word. It has become increasingly incompetent, ineffective, and uninterested in paying that truth forward. Now, I really wish I could paint a prettier picture for you. I really do. I would personally much rather be blissfully ignorant of what's happened, what is happening, and what's coming, because, to be honest, it seems impossible that this can ever be turned around. I would love to just sit here and say with a straight face that with God, nothing is impossible and that God works all things together for good to those who love him. Because while I believe that's true, those words are just useless platitudes if we aren't being the kind of people who truly love God. Do people who love God allow this to happen to future generations? Do people who love God fail to know and pass on his word? Do people who love God permit the body of Messiah in America to be brought to the brink of extinction? Because whether we realize it or admit it or not, this is on us. We made this mess, not God. It was our responsibility to proclaim the truth of Messiah, to make God's word the foundation of our families and our lives, to do more than attend worship services and Bible studies, to not compromise the Scriptures, and to confront our brothers and sisters who did. But we didn't. We slowly turned inward. We became less dependent upon one another. We minded our own business when we should have stuck our noses in. We got comfortable in our lack of persecution. We became spiritual consumers instead of spiritual producers. And we relinquished our responsibility for the next generation, expecting God to do the job that he gave us to do. We were satisfied with milk when we should have been hungering for meat. We caused our children to look for meaning outside of Messiah because they saw, through our actions and inaction, how meaningless to us he really was.